Sin volver. Anyways, yeah, started this. So I didn't change the title. Fuck. I didn't. Forgot about that. Fuck. In other stuff. This. We were in 20, so we to 21. Because I needed to do what I forgot to do before. Fuck. This is literally all my fault. Yep. Okay, okay. That is running. So I can play this. I can open it already. And I need to copy from here. I forgot completely to change the title. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. So, the title is something like this. Let me paste this. Uh, okay, there it is. Observe. I think it's okay. Let's copy this. Copy, 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 copy. This isn't 279, right? Okay, this is 200. Fuck. I forgot to change it. Now it's done. So we have that done. Also, what's the next thing? I think I didn't forget anything else important like that. Well, yeah, I can always copy the link and I can paste it down there. But how much does this last? Only 1 hour. What the fuck? Um, anyways, let me paste it here. Pin. Yeah. So, in the meanwhile, now that I did everything that was really important, I can go and eat a banana because I wanted to eat a banana. So yeah, let me leave for that. Give me, I don't know, like 4 minutes, 5 probably. See you soon. Hey, also, what the fuck? Why is this lagging? What's up? What's, what's going on? Why is this thing lagging? Uh, So, what's up with this? Can I know why is this lagging? No? I guess. Anyways, besides that, I can come here. Okay, no for real. Like 2, 3 minutes. Anyways, be right back. Okay, so I was in the middle of setting everything else up. Pop out this thing, yeah. Nice. That's one thing. What else? What else? What else? What else? Okay. I have to make this one other thing over here. So let me see. How much time do we have left? 7 minutes. Nice. I guess enough time for everything else. And also, didn't I make what? What's up with this, man? I made a creation. I need didn't submit. I don't get it. Was it deleted or what? No. What? Ah, sorry. Which one do I have pasted? Okay. Okay. I have the video link. So instead, it needs to be between the 20 different things that I have in my clipboard. This one. And also, profile. Yeah. Let me copy this general structure as always. So wait. Is this working? What's up with this? Is this on or off? Or what's kind of kind of I don't know if this is working. Let me just can I see it or I can't? Yeah, welcome to the chat for the third time in a row. What's going on Twitch? I made a redeem. Can I see the redeem or is it really not going to work? Um, Yeah, I don't really have reasons as to why it will not really be functioning in any way whatsoever. I don't think so. Let me see. Let me close this and try again. Let's see. Is this really not going to work? Let me refresh. Let me try yet again. And submit this, submit that. Activate sound, deactivate sound. What's up? Does this work? Let me Bob. Redeem. Yeah, 10 points. Okay, there it is. Now it works. Hide. Fine. So now I can continue this. That was. What did I want to do? Continue. Post. Okay. Yeah, this is done. I can close this. I guess I can close. Can I close that? Did it work? Let me check. Did that thing work? Hello? Yeah, that one worked also. So let me close this. Also close that. What else? Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Besides everything else, so it means quite. Wait, this. How is this thing going? Okay, nothing to worry about here. I can go over here. Okay, focus. fuck, not that link. That is not even a link. Okay, that's that, and also what else? What else? What else? What else? Uh, I love when I get stressed by this fucking song. That's the animal spirit. Wow. Okay, that's that, I guess. Yeah, now I can move. Oh, nice. So with that, everything else is quite done. I needed to set up these properties. Okay, say that and also activate this, and with that it works. So, need to accommodate. Uh, yeah, we are we are ready. I think so. I believe I did everything. Also, why the fuck did I get a ping? Uh, shut up. What the fuck is talking? Don't know to me. What do they want? What can I do for them? Oh, well, anyways. So, I think, yeah, we are ready. I was catching up on also some stuff that was said. Uh, all of this was done, I believe so. And yeah, everything is going fine. So, let's wait. So this like 10 more. Not that long. So yeah, anyways, we are on English, right? I don't know. I really sometimes I forget quite which language is it that we need. But yeah, anyways. Hello, here we are. After so long, here we find ourselves yet again. It has been quite a good journey so far, and it has been quite nice to get everything set up for us to be here present in this very moment, as they will say, because I wouldn't have really expected to free myself out of everything the way in which I did so, to end up now even enjoying the chance of doing almost everything related to what is very much related, yeah, to getting to set up on a schedule. I remember that the last time I tried to do anything of that sort, it was around 3 months ago, and the last one I created, I think I failed a little bit on following it properly. I know that certainly there were some tiny errors and such things because I, yeah, I made along the lines some miscalculations. Therefore, I wasn't capable of setting it all up correctly. But it's even if that was quite the reasoning, I believe it was all enjoyable. It was all good. And now, after, as I said, after I guess so many so many weeks, I I do believe we are going to see how it goes this time around. I haven't really accustomed myself to, yeah, overall to organizing all of this after so long. I think you lose a little bit of um, the preparation that you always had when such things had to be done. So that's going to be quite crazy to see on one hand. On the other, at the very least, what will remain and what will certainly be by itself a big part of all of this journey, I guess, is the fact that now we are here and we are going, as I said before, yeah, we are going to try to see how much we can stick to that one schedule in particular. But anyways, I have been talking about it like how much, 3 minutes already or so about that one simple thing. So yeah. Anyways, hello, as always, people. Thanks for being here. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for watching the VOD. Thanks for being here, viewers. Also, hello, hello, everyone. It has been quite a crazy journey to get to be in this place today, and we have a lot of things to do, and we have a lot of stuff to be happy about because certainly it feels nice to realize that now we can yet again get to immerse ourselves in all of this very crazy process that is trying to continuously put our efforts towards something in particular, be it whatever. And I don't know how it will go today in particular, or yeah, I don't really get to know how it will go ever in particular, but it always is very very nice to see that we can try at the very least our best when it comes to all of these things and experience the enjoyment born out of simply, yet again, putting your efforts towards something that you feel might be worth. So that is by itself already good enough. And yeah, that is on one hand something very noticeable and very easy to observe, I guess. And besides that, I, or basically as always, moving into something different, changing topic, I was, I was thinking, I, I haven't really planned anything mentally when it comes to what we are going to go over today. That's certainly something quite noticeable. I would have preferred to be ready with a minimally short list because certainly it is going to happen right now that what we are going to watch um, is not going to be long enough for us to be as many hours as we could be if it had a little bit more of knowledge contained inside of it, let's say. So we will have to see um, how we can entertain ourselves with all of this and how is it that we can even more properly get to spend our times being for quite some hours, for as long as we can be here, as always. So that's nice. And I don't know. Besides that, also something quite funny, something quite interesting is the realization itself that we we are going to have to deal by itself with yet another class. I can always check that. Today we have psychopathology, so that is everything related to, yeah, I believe this is very much useful in the sense of comparing and even more obviously trying to analyze whatever it is that we can extract from those classes. And even more certainly, there is always this notion or this underlying possibility that is, we can also not just try to go with whatever is being said or is being talked about, particularly in the class, but we can also try our best to, besides just the class, as always, do those tiny interruptions in which I try to go over things that might seem very, yeah, I wouldn't say very useful, but simply capable of connecting a little bit more, those different sides of the concepts themselves. So yeah, we will see how it goes. But as it says on the text on the screen, that will happen in probably or in around almost um, an hour from now. So we have still a lot of time to be here and to think about everything else instead of being so worried about just reading or whatever. Also, I have been noticing that I am almost completely healed from my throat. I I don't really want to focus that much on that one thing, but I have realized that at first it was incredibly more incapacitating than what I ever expected, but at the same time, after having gone through a little bit of it, now I am somehow experiencing less pain and less problems than before, as if somehow this was um, a lot easier to deal with compared to what it was before, yes. And I don't know. We will see how we manage to deal with this particular stream. I I will try to hope, or not that I will try to hope, I will try to be for as long as possible. Obviously, to finish the lesson, it is quite short. And once again, very similar to when I was talking about stuff and utilizing methods to explain myself on particular ideas throughout the expression created by images. The video also enables me quite a lot of time for throat resting spaces, or I think something like that. So that is quite good. I believe so. And by itself, it will always be, at the very least, in incredibly possible to last this long. I don't know exactly how long, but I believe we can make it today. Today in particular, I think that is this this whole part of this process because I have been thinking and it has been quite complex. I have not really noticed so far one of these few notions that I think it was today that I heard this one. Um, I saw this one, literally one line, where it said, "Try to live your life like it is going to be your last day, because one day you might be right." And I always knew about that. Um, I I don't even remember properly how did it go, the original one, in which it was live. Yeah, live your life like it is your last day because it is precious, or something like that. It made a lot more sense when, yeah, it makes a lot more sense now that you take it into consideration. And this whole stuff of, you know what, maybe one day it is going to end without you even realizing that it happened. And I believe this is going to be quite enjoyable and quite amazing having observed this tiny concept. I don't know. I think it is always that part of oneself that can remain, let's say, untouched. The one in win, yeah, the one in which you can always remain open to the possibility of hearing whatever it is that might be offered to you. Because after all, even if what you believe is being given to you might not be potentially useful, as long as you can, at the very least, not completely negate all of those things that are put in front of you, you will get to experience and you to, I believe, learn and comprehend how incredibly good it can be to just wonder in life. I mean, I had been also thinking about it quite recently, something very similar to that, along the lines of also it happens that certainly takes a lot of processing. Um, I think it was Plato who talked about such a concept, the one in which the human can always remain. I don't remember particularly the term, but it is very same along those lines. The ones in which you should try to remain capable of being amazed by the world. I think it was more like curious, something like that. I don't fully, yeah, I don't fully remember which one was it. But the point still remains being that life is quite amazing, and nowadays we're standing in a place in which so many things are going well that this is certainly yet another occasion in which good times are ensured. I will say I don't really get to fully know if it is like that, or even less to be capable of deciding if anything of that degree shall happen like that, as in, you know, sometimes there's one consideration quite, yeah, quite weird where maybe we don't really deserve to be so well. And I try to ignore those ideas because I do observe in them a little bit of a shadow in the term of what what can really be described as deserved and what can be really described as something undeserved. Because if you only base yourself around these concepts that are born out of your linear ways of thinking and processing whatever it is that you are by itself observing, you will not get, I believe so, to experience and to fully be part of this whole journey of realizing those things that were there not because of any particular reason. So here we are now doing something good, be it deserved or not. We are doing something good, and we are doing something that is by itself capable of providing, once again, no, at the very least, I believe or I sense it that it happens on me satisfaction, and I guess something that I had been trying to say before, but that I never realized was necessary to mention up to this point also is, and if by any chance in life what you're doing ends up not really being enjoyable for you, what you must do for your own sanity is, for the love of God, find something that is going to be as enjoyable for you. And obviously, I think this whole process takes a lot of time and takes a lot of consideration because it is always almost a necessary part of the whole ordeal to be capable to come into contact with all of those notions that you hold instead of yourself and that you do possess instead of your, let's say, instead of your notions, as in something that you get to create and you get to define only by your own mind, let's say. And when you do so, you get to once again reach those moments of enjoyment that nothing else can give you. But the problem is to do such a thing, you have to come into acceptance with what is most of the time a bad reality, the one in which you have decided for so long to negate yourself the chance of being present, and not simply being present, being in the moment, doing things that do feel consistently good for you. And that is when it gets once again problematic, because it doesn't need to be always a negative observation or any type of decisive loss. It just happens, or it just so happens that somehow what what you get to obtain is one of the best tools to live life, because there is no need for anybody to punish themselves with the fact that they are alive. And I don't really know. Not always it is easy to observe it like that, or to be once again capable of recognizing what you have in front of you, and even less to properly discuss with yourself if what you possess is deserved or is undeserved or whatnot. With so many similar concepts always affecting, I believe, our human condition, it gets quite complicated to get to decide if where you are standing is, at the end of the day, a place of enjoyment or not. And in these times, what is primordially meaningful for the sake of such a debate, instead of the human self, I will say, is the conscious capability of recognizing what you had already seen in some way or another as an useful idea. Because if you really believe that what you have been given means nothing goes to you, and that even more, it means nothing beneficial to your existence, what you are going to do to yourself is simply handicap in a certain way your capacity of enjoying being alive, because the process, once again, the process itself of being alive is the one of going through all of those different possibilities that are being offered to you throughout life, and getting to know which one satisfies the best your dreams. I will say, but I don't really know. I I always believe these these things are quite complicated, and this is in no way different. But regardless, yeah let me drink some water at this point. We are going to see if I can survive for long enough, and to do so, it is necessary for me to not talk so much uninterruptedly. So yeah, let me drink water. Give me 1 second. Also, I I have like different yeah, I have a lot of different things that I sometimes want to talk about, and I guess that is part of this. Yeah, the beautifulness of being here, no? That in this case, once again, once you find something that is enjoyable enough for you, you can realize how many possibilities are always there for you to enjoy such things. And I guess one of the hard sides of this whole ordeal itself is coming into contact properly with the notion that what you are going to do might not give you the most lasting happiness, and that you need to always be on the lookout for the next advancement to make in your so so-called fixation, I guess. And by doing so, you will also have to accept that sometimes you will be presented with a lot of different options, and you will need to choose something that feels good enough without knowing how good it it all feels. But I think this might be pretty much related to this whole idea of love to a certain extent, because let me let me think for a second. Yeah, I think I see it like that. Because you're capable of loving so much what you're doing, you will accept that sometimes what you are going to be presented is multiple ways of being happy. The problem will always be you are going to do only one thing at a time, so you will never get to experience the complete happiness born out of all the possibilities that exist around the options presented to you. So this does mean that what you will end up doing for the sake of, once again, feeling good will be quite complex by itself, but it doesn't represent a negative side as long as you can go back to this whole idea of, if you really are capable of loving something, you will accept the nature of it as long as you can see the benefits created from the good actions born out of those things. It is quite easier to see it when we are talking about loving someone, because you can, yeah, it is quite simpler in that sense, as when you are just mentioning the act itself of loving someone, you don't really need to over obsess over, obviously, everything that you are doing. You just needed to be conscious of, are these guys or is this person that I love, sorry, um, doing well enough for themselves, and are they ensuring that what they are doing is going to keep bringing back to life, let's say, that whole desire that deeply, deeply inside of them resides, or on the other hand, what they are going to do is they are going to slowly remove from themselves those moments of enjoyment. And in this same case, it happens, I believe, if you really love something that you are doing, or if in the process of doing something that you like, you can realize that you are doing it because you really love what it ends up transforming you into. That is also part of the process of being capable of utilizing, once again, supposing or assuming that this is um, the proper definition, you will end up arriving to those times of real enjoyment of all of those things, because the problem isn't going to be that what you will be doing is not going to by itself in some way or another provide you with enough satisfaction. The problem will be you, as a limited existence on this finite world, will not have the chance of doing every single thing that is related to those really big, I don't know, passions. Okay, not go, it's passions that you possess. So once you recognize that those passions will have to be not fully satisfied, or will always present to you conflicting points, let's say like that, when they present such things to you, what you will end up learning and what you will end up receiving is sadly the biggest type of reward. I believe so, in that sense. The one in which you now see that one of the primal resources is being content with what you chose without paying so much attention to everything else that was out there. Because the reality is, you might always picture things a lot better than what they are, but it is quite dishonest even with yourself to not focus on what you are doing right now, let's say, and do not enjoy being in the moment, doing what you yourself, for the sake of your own enjoyment, chose to do. Not that you should force always to be present, as in you have no um, control over anything else, but rather that if your mind ends up wandering towards the direction of those claims in which you see yourself as someone who truly believes that they are going somewhere or another to have more negative sides to them, let's say like that, um, what is necessary is to realize I don't really get to obtain everything that I want in terms of satisfying or fulfilling all of the roles that are represented to me because life doesn't allow me to do so. So if I am going to choose something, what is primordial for me, or what should at the very least be primordial for me, is the fact that I do need to consistently eh, okay. You need to consistently give yourself the notion or the acceptance of what I chose was the best choice that I could make. But because I supposedly know made the best choice, what we are going to do now is only the best possible outcome because everything else might be out there for me to try, but the reality itself is always I don't have the capacity of completely controlling all of the things on reality. I can only deal with one or two things at a time, and that is part of, once again, fully loving something. If you desired everything that was inside of the chances born out of using your time for what you aspire to do, you are probably not going to find yourself in any enjoyable place. But if, in the other hand, you chose to consistently or confidently, let's say, go for everything minimally related to just the things that feel good, if you choose only that, what you will end up obtaining is almost unequivocally the good, not just the good vibes, the proper rewards of such things. I believe, but I don't know. I, sorry, sorry. I will also, I will also accept that we got quite far into the terrain of ideas more than just proper concepts. So yeah, I can see how it ended up turning more abstract than what we really started with. But I guess to a certain extent it still has some common sense behind it all, I guess. So it doesn't mean that what we were trying to discuss was in no way capable of being understood. It is more like certainly it gets complicated to see any of this sort of stuff fully properly, but it doesn't mean that you have no chance of doing so, or even less that you have no capacity of doing so inside of yourself. Because even if you had the capacity, if you had no chance, that would be quite sad. But if you had every single chance throughout your life, but you lacked always the capacities, that would be even worse, I believe so. So yeah, neither of those are really something that you have to worry yourself with. You are only needing to pay attention, let's say, to the fact that maybe not always you will get to choose not the best outcome, but rather every possible outcome related to doing the things that you want to do, and accepting that as a reality instead of running from such a such a truth. I believe so will let you show you more what it shows, because it allows you the worrisomeness born out of believing that somehow you could go back in time and change what already happened for the sake of living a better life. As in, you are going to somehow really change what happened in the past, and because you somehow were capable of changing what happened once again in the past, which is already written down on history, you will now get to experience world in a better way. Thing that doesn't really get to happen. And I guess to a certain extent that is also what ideas like. At the very least, if you are going to pay so much attention to the past, what is always the best thing is to take notes from it and transform what you had learned from the past into the present, because it is quite necessary for you to properly observe and to properly take into your hands whatever it is that they are bringing into discussion, let's say, those all of those ideas related to the lessons that you will take from the errors that you committed in the past. It doesn't mean that you should always live in the past, but if you find yourself, uh, how is it, coincidentally? No, consistently going back to your older memories, at the very least, what you should always try to do is extract something worth using right now in the present. Meaning that, once again, you have no obligation towards um, doing so. But probably, if you were to accept such a capacity instead of you would have a so much better life than what the average person might. Because, once again, you're in no way obligated to see anything of this existence as good. But if you decided to neglect yourself to such a sad occurrence throughout the time, you might not be giving yourself a proper chance of living. I believe so. I don't. I we we do get a little bit distracted with ideas that happen from time to time. So yeah, that's what I quite wanted to talk about at first, I guess. But maybe it will be better to move to something a little bit more comprehensible for everybody. Because at this point, I do notice that even for myself, it gets not overwhelmingly, but at the very least, quite uh, hard to keep going forward. Because if we keep adding more and more notions, it will unavoidably happen that the whole recollection needed to get a new point ends up taking so much longer than before that we can almost spend at this time around like 10 minutes setting up the whole display of connections before fully placing this one new, let's say, brain cell, this whole array of views that are being alive or anything that we discuss here, I guess. So yeah, yeah. Also, my throat is fucking dying, so give me a second. Let me drink water. Okay, okay, okay. I think it is fine now. I think so. But yeah, basically that. I don't know. It is always what tries to go back to not being so sad in life, I guess. I don't really know. I see it as quite annoying. Let's say like that. I see it as quite annoying that sometimes we bifurcate into so many ideas fully out there, and I I don't know. I guess at the very least, as always, in the most minimal part of it, what's what we get to enjoy is the whole array of notions born out of things that we deem as not so complicated to get. But yeah, basically that. Now, moving on to something different, I do say that I have quite a hard time pulling up something, or at the very least today, I will try to stay focused, but it does take a bit for me to see which one might be. Let me. I don't know. I haven't quite filling my mind with ideas, and okay, let me start with that, and let's see if I can come up with something different in the process itself. I have been filling my head with different notions and knowledges about different fields of ideas minimally related to what ends up being my career, and all of them interconnect into something quite useful and quite entertaining to have at hand whenever it is necessary. But the problem is, yeah, I think I kind of talk about it at some point or another, I'm pretty sure. And the problem is, we possess too many notions that do conflict with one another, and we have too many ideas. Yeah, we literally talked about this yesterday. We have too many opposing views on things, and I don't enjoy really having to deal with trying to discern which one is going to be useful, or trying to see if there is one reigning category of anything that can really be called the supreme one in a certain way, or if both of them are really conflicting with one another, if I can only try my best and pick one or two notions from each side while discarding everything else, because the simple idea that there are conflicting notions inside of any field shows or indicates to you already that these things are not really prepared for the optimal consumption, let's say, or usage of the average person. But I don't know. I think, okay, let me say like this. I think as subjects of this whole world, it can be quite easy for you to avoid dealing with so many things that are annoying and that are incredibly distasteful, because you have never an obligation towards feeling a certain way, or whatever. You can only be part of X or Y, and you can only deal with certain things as much as you can properly, and accepting your place in this whole ordeal, let's say, of, yeah, of different things born themselves out of this whole journey. But when you try to solidify a little bit more what might be useful for you, or for those that might also come after you, that is when you have to sadly come in contact with the realization of, you know what I had tried to create or what I had tried to come up with was in no way for myself beneficial, and because it is in no no way, shape, or form useful for me to keep trying to use, I will now sadly have to depart from such a thing. And if this process keeps happening repeatedly enough throughout time, isolation of ideas is quite unavoidable because the human subject gets tired of trying so much, and the human subject almost unavoidably confronts the reality of there are too many things that are, at the very least, by the society itself in which I live, categorized as incredibly hard to integrate instead of my life. So instead of spending my whole life trying to pursue something that at first glance seems so impossible to obtain, I will just give myself what I already know works, go for those immediate things that end up building up my vision of the world, and after that, retire because I have nothing more to really sacrifice, or at the very least, there is nothing more really worth it trying to sacrifice myself for in terms of using my own existence as a tool or as a leverage for those things, you know? And I don't really get to decide or to fully integrate any of those things into a completely proper vision. More, more often than not, at the very least, what I get to do or what I can try always to create is some way this whole ordinance of ideas that minimally resembles a comprehension of reality itself, so that we can, in these cases, try to say that what we are deciphering might lead to an even better outlook on, in this case, quite obviously, the whole act of being alive. But the reality is, we're not really, not that we're not getting anywhere, we are not really founding anything completely new. We are just using what was already left behind by others. And I mean, I heard about it, and it made me quite angry to a certain extent. I am not going to correct myself. If I said angry, I fucking said angry, and let's go with that. It makes me quite angry to notice that sometimes people of higher echelons of knowledge describes almost anything that might be useful end up being left behind for others to use in the future. And in certain cases, or at the very least in the cases of philosophy and such, psychology, we have come up with the complete or the most useful ways to observe the world when it comes to try and make sense out of the reality in which you live. So all of that is very important for you and is certainly necessary for you to grasp if you, in any way whatsoever, want to try and better your life. But at the same time, the problem is, and I hate this idea, if you want to do philosophy, you need to do history of philosophy. And although it is real, what is not a true statement is only if you want to do philosophy. If you want to build an even better philosophy, it is necessary for you to build up based on what was already done before. and see at the very least which types of structures were followed in those times so that you can replicate them now in the present and use all of them in a more comprehensible manner for the sake of fortifying all of those ideas and all of those notions once again in a fully observable way. But if you somehow decided to just, let's say, believe that what was being talked about was such a short idea, or what is proposed as from somebody who was alive, um, let's say, thousands upon thousands of years ago, as the complete reality of this world, if you ever decided to take that as a complete statement, what you end up doing is simply sacrificing to yourself the chance of living a good life. Because the reality is, in your hand lies the capacity of shaping what are your notions into something so much more worth your time than what can be described by anyone else. And if in this whole process you are capable of coming up with a response that fully motivates you towards moving forward, you are being robbed out of such a possibility when somebody introduces to this whole equation this idea of, wow, yeah, you know what, you may not really have to deal with preoccupying yourself about uh, seeing or observing or trying to notice in which ways something of this sort happens, because the reality is you as a human are always kind of coded towards seeing this whole world as a very basic thing, and you are always coded towards believing what was already stated before by others as your own reality, when the reality itself is you never know how much you can introduce the chaos born out of what others state, and from doing so, you will end up getting now to enjoy the whole chance that is to fully have, yeah, to fully come into contact with the enjoyment born out of completely, completely being the one who made sense out of your own life. And I don't know, I think it sounds quite harsh, I believe. So I might stop that point there. I yeah, I will unavoidably say it. Sometimes I see that when I try to mention certain ideas, I get unnecessarily emotional or overly aggressive also in the ways in which I communicate those ideas at the very least, as it happened there. So I would prefer to not keep moving forward because that it is not necessary for us to get angry at anything so far. And I don't know, I think, yeah, it is still annoying to realize that yet again you are not being given the chance of deciding for yourself what is fully good, but at a very, very, very least, you will obtain, you will get to always, I believe, no, shape what you see. And not just what you see, but also what you comprehend out of what you see. So this is rather annoying to deal with, as long as you keep trying. But at the very, very, very least, um, you can always keep to yourself the chance of reshaping this world And I believe making this whole existence of ours good enough. But yeah, I don't know, I don't know. I think sometimes I do tend to, as I said before, get unnecessarily influenced by what I had been feeling instead of me or such things. So yeah, moving into something else, I guess. Um, yeah, okay. This is a perfect time for me to pull up my card of let me drink water. So let me do that while I see what is next on my mind to talk about. Okay, I will be real. I didn't have a nap today, and I don't want to make excuses, but I can see how that lack of a nap is quite killing me today. I, I should have gone for that nap. I guess I don't know. It happens that sometimes getting to sleep is quite complicated, and also I have excuses out of that, as in. I didn't get to sleep because certain things happen in my house and such, and the amount of noise doesn't allow me to sleep that easily and similar. But I don't know. I think regardless of that, eh, it doesn't mean that I can't perform. I mean, I had been trying to push myself a little bit more overall on almost everything. I heard this one idea that what you do in terms of efforts is very much always closer to just 40% of your physical capacities than just yeah than what you can fully achieve. So if you decided to distract yourself with different rewards and yeah different earnings obtained by trying to just observe what is being given to you and what is being decided, I believe, as this whole side of enjoyment, if all of those things are like that, what ends up happening is probably pushing yourself a little bit more. Not obviously saying is not going to kill you, but even more later on, you will you will obtain to see how much more energy was always lying inside of you, and even more that energy ends up being used towards something rather interesting and rather beneficial, because after all I guess it is quite primordial in these cases for something that you yourself decided to take as a real interest. So if all of those things fall into place, what you end up coming up with is nothing else but the enjoyment born out of doing well enough. I guess, but I don't know. I guess that is one of those concepts that had been taking me quite a long time to fully process. I don't see it as something negative. I just see it as something quite weird, because after all, what we tell ourselves is, and you know what? I don't always have the best chances at doing things. But the reality is, if in the process of trying to do something, when we feel the first amount of friction in our way, we give up, the reality itself ends up being, sadly, we are not going to last that much longer. We can't last that much longer, sadly. So why almost put your time towards such things, you know? You don't have to surrender so easily. Nobody's really forcing you to do anything of that sort. But I don't know, I don't know. I think yeah that's it's quite a complex topic because it always encompasses a lot of different ideas that have to deal with the capacity, the innate capacity that remains inside of you to accept that sometimes the decisions that you take are not so positive. And that is by itself quite a complex task because to be capable of recognizing that what you are doing is not useful enough is not just because I have heard this term enough times, not just humbling. We're not just talking about something that humbles you, we're also talking about stuff that sadly modifies your whole interaction with the world in a manner in which you don't even get to be good. And not just to be good, sorry, to fully take part of what is happening now in life. And that is where it gets incredibly annoying, I feel like. So I don't know, I don't know. I guess that's quite a thing to have happen to anybody. But yeah. Anyways, eh, I guess I had been trying to make it last as long as possible, but I can't squeeze anymore. Sometimes I feel like I am really forcing it too much. And today, after an hour and a half and a quarter, I think we are quite ready to continue with the whole lesson itself. So yeah, let us move on to that whole process. I believe so. Instead of just continuing with what was pure formless rambles, not be not because I don't think what we're talking about is in any way bad or useless, but rather because I see it, this whole notion that I always had inside of me. It is quite complex to follow what is just being mentioned, and if it was me, I wouldn't like to losing so much ideas that are being discussed because the guy who's trying to give them to me is even he himself having a hard time following what is going on in this whole narrative of events that relate existence, let's say, with the rest of the world. So yeah, I don't know, I don't know. Continuing, I guess, moving on, and also, yeah, we need to change categories and we need to mute and all of that. So a little bit. So we have the clock that goes mute, the desktop audio that goes on. We have that, we have this, and with all of these things, we can properly start, I guess. Let's close this, and now we should be completely fine. I believe so. So, yeah. Let us start with this whole lecture analysis. We are. Wait, because I forgot to increase speed. But, anyways, we are on the lecture 21. We are, yeah, taking what was the last point into consideration. We are continuing with, as it says here, psychopathology number two in this time around. So we'll see what we can extract from here. Uh, As always, let's hope for the best at the very least. This time, something to take a note of is there are different what is it time marks or timestamps or whatever it is that we can call them. I mean, there are quite a lot also. So yeah. Anyways, starting with this. Do we have audio? We have, okay, we have everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's start with this.
Good afternoon. So last time we talked about neuropsychiatric disorder, and I just want to remind you that we talked about it in a couple of contexts of challenges that historically different cultures at different times have interpreted unusual behavior in very different ways, from trephination, where you have to release evil spirits, to possession, to what we would now consider brutal patterns of taking people away from society who behave
Yeah.
unusually. And that even in recent times, things like in the Soviet Union, the diagnosis of people who protested totalitarian governments, is a socially defined diagnosis, obviously. Things like definition of homosexuality as a psychiatric disorder until about 20 years ago was a socially defined disorder. So there's a lot of challenges. On the other hand, there's a lot of people suffering with a huge range of neuropsychiatric disorders. So we're going to talk some more about that today, think about a little bit more about issues of treatment, talk a bit about depression and ADHD. And I think of depression and ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as kind of different than schizophrenia. So most of us,
What? Kinda. Kinda. Yeah, I guess. Kinda,
except for the
yeah.
1% approximately who have schizophrenia, don't hear voices, right? That's an unusual thing. But all of us can be sad, and many children are what we would consider to be a bit hyperactive compared to a teenager or an adult, right? They won't sit still quietly in a large classroom like this for very long. And so when we talk about disorders like these are in some ways exaggerations or extensions of what we consider typical everyday behavior, but moving into a realm that makes life difficult for those who get the diagnosis. So when it comes to treatment, there's sort of two.
Okay, yeah. So, um, yeah, going back into what was the other lesson, the last one, we are dealing properly with ideas that are more than anything else related to how we view when we discover and we go about all of the notions behind trying to treat anything and trying to discover or trying to, yet again, obviously, get what is being talked about. The problem is always to do such a thing, you need to accept that it is quite complex to do so. You you have to have a proper set of diagnosis and similar systems in play so that whenever you need it, you can enjoy watching these things. But yeah, it is not so much of an annoying thing by itself so far. The only useful thing so far that I can mention though is there are there has been a lot of different mistreatments and miscategorizations of ideas when it comes to trying and failing at synthesizing proper analysis of what are the matters that you have in hand. And it always ends up being quite complex to do such things, not because they themselves are bad, but rather because all of these things are always quite hard to get and quite annoying to have in hands in terms of, yeah, okay. There are some decisions that you should want to have clarified as soon as possible, but the problem is to have them fully clarified. You also have to have some possible ways of treatment of this. It is not so easy to declare that you have a myriad of symptoms if what you lack is also a way to deal with them. Because the reality is, we don't really know so far, for example, if aging is a kind of sickness, because we haven't found a proper way to deal with aging. Rapid aging might be a kind of sickness so far, which we have found ways to deal with, but aging itself has not been so far solved in terms of finding how is it that you can avoid getting destroyed by different sicknesses that affect your life, in this case aging itself. So it's quite hard to get a proper conclusion in any of those things. But at the very least, I can recognize you get to live happily, alive, knowing that what you had gone for became useful and gratifying enough. So, in these cases, having made sense out of these diseases is a necessary step for the better quality of life of those who suffer them, as well as the insurance of knowing that in the future nobody else is also going to have to go through these things, because yet again you made sure that all of the problems surrounding them had been eradicated properly. So yeah, that's quite an introduction here. Why this kind of the topic here, different sicknesses and such things. But well, yeah, I had an example which I forgot to mention, and I said all of this because we are dealing with information that is old, and when I heard about it, it it stayed with me quite a long time until today even. And that was, we are not dealing with schizophrenia itself, so far it seems, but something that even happened when trying to treat schizophrenia is somebody came with a sense of an explanation of a schizophrenia in which they decided to believe that what they had in their hands was somehow a fully manifested type of blessing which enabled them now to live an even better life than those who didn't suffer schizophrenia. So we don't know if we will see such similar concepts here when it comes to try and talk about problems related to having all of these negative things happening to you. And why did I mention that particular example? Because later on it was shown properly that there is no positive outlook from being schizophrenic. If you are schizophrenic, you better pray the gods that you survive such things, because schizophrenia is an overall consuming sickness that destroys you, and believing that it had any positive side was one of the most horrible problems that they could find themselves dealing with, because after so many instances of neglecting what were clear signs of problems before, they end up needing almost a decade to get rid of all the problems created by believing that schizophrenia was something good. So yeah, we don't know what we are going to find so far, but once again, let's pray to not have such ideas said here. As in, for example, this one I did learn, because after all, it also affects me. Um, there was commonly, there is, I think it is even used nowadays, that people who suffer from ADHD have certain types of advantages in their lives, and the reality is you're as equally or even more incapacitated as the average person in terms of overall quality of life. So it ends up being necessary for you to accept that no, you don't have an overcompensation when it comes to getting to be a lot better at doing one particular thing. It just happened that if your brain didn't do such things, you were probably going to die or do off yourself, because what you were presenting was completely negative. But yeah, anyways, continuing, let's say.
Giant classes of them. One of them is behavioral treatment. Broadly speaking, you could call them talk therapies. And the other one is medical treatment with drugs. Within psychotherapy, which really covers all of talk therapies, people sometimes make a distinction between psychoanalysis and cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So what is psychological therapy? So you might have a sense that there's a lot of organization and rules and regulation about this, but the truth of the matter is that psychotherapy is a social interaction in which a trained professional tries to help another person behave and feel differently. There's really no boundaries on that, okay? There's no official rules. There's more and less official channels you're used to, but it can be very wide sources of this. And if you flip open, this is an archaic thing, Yellow Pages. I realized just a few years ago, people, Yellow Pages. But they used to have things called phones and phone books that were tethered to the wall. And this is where you would look for information about people who list themselves as providing psychotherapy. All you have to do is put your name in that listing, even easier on the internet maybe. Psychiatrists, the big difference between psychiatrists in one practical sense and psychologists is psychiatrists, of course, go to medical school and they have prescription privileges. They can write prescriptions for drugs. That's rare to non-existent currently among psychologists. Psychoanalysis, here's Sigmund Freud in the original psychotherapy couch. And I think we barely mentioned Freud so far in this course, right? Which is kind of a big shock to many people. If you might have thought coming into this course that there'd be Freud, and that we'd be sitting and that we'd be discussing ideas about Freudian theory. I'll come back to that in a moment. Clinical psychologists can provide psychotherapy, counseling psychologists in schools, clinical social workers, clergy, peer groups, self-help books. So let me return to Freud just for a moment, because intellectually, I think most people will agree that Freud was a giant mind, and that in many ways, the complexity of the modern human mind, the idea that we're made up of different parts, different feelings, that we're not just one simple operation machine, but that we have conflicts of different feelings and thoughts and patterns all within us. And Freud probably articulated that thought more powerfully than anybody else in many ways as a modern way in which we view people, right? People are not just simple things, they're complicated things full of tensions and desires that are all mixed together. At the same time, the specific ideas that Freud articulated using psychodynamic theories of free association, resistance,
Yeah. Before moving on, because there are so many things that have to deal with Freud himself, I think so. I don't really blame the course. I mean, what was being kind of expressed, or the way in which it was being said, sounded like it you should have expected, or not that you should have. We, the average person, comes here expecting to find a lot of mentions about Freud or Jung and similar people, when in reality, this is, and this has always been, an introduction to psychology, not to only one pathway to psychology. I have been thinking about it, and I don't know if this is by itself a proper course that is necessary to take. The I think it is pretty well known at this point, no? MIT Academy, or whatever it is, university, or if it is a free lecture that is optional to go to, because the information provided here is from a lot of different parts. It doesn't really encompass only one thing, so it is not so surprising when you take into account everything that was already presented, that certainly we are not going to stay with only one idea. I mean, we used to talk about the brain, yet now we are completely on something fully different, as it is Freud. We used to talk about different methods of analysis, yet now you are going over different types of diagnoses that exist around psychological people, or the psychological discipline itself. I don't think, if you were expecting all of this to be only about one or two parts, you got that this was once again being to be an introduction to the whole overall idea. And obviously, even more, something important, very important, is when you're dealing with such ways of learning, what always ends up being necessary for you is you should do your best to learn by yourself. And that is quite what we are doing here, because we got the chance of learning by ourselves something that seems interesting to our own selves. We are not forced to learn about it. And it means that sometimes you also accept the possibility of not getting taught what you wanted so incredibly hard to learn about, because it is impossible for almost anybody to learn about certain things when there is no real reason to do it. But yeah, anyways, continuing, I guess.
Transference, interpretation, trying to have a corrective emotional experience where you go back to your youth and you figure out something bad that happened, and if you can somehow grapple with that, that will let you be free of the consequences of that early experience. That, almost none of that has withstood the scrutiny of practical science. A lot of it, you don't even know how you could begin to test. Now, for those of you who become physicians, and the rest of you will be patients, it's amazing how much in medicine is not science-based. It's amazing. So you hear the cry all the time in medicine of, we need to have science or evidence-based medicine, and you might have thought, well, what else are they doing? Okay. And the answer is they're treating as best they can. What works, works. A lot of stuff they don't understand exactly when and why it works, but they apply what they can. There's a patient in distress. Freudian ideas are, everything that you know about ids and electric complexes and all that kinds of stuff. Hard to prove that they exist in any scientific sense. So weirdly, Freud is in many ways marginalized in current scientific psychology. That doesn't mean he wasn't a creative mind that influenced the way people think about the human mind and treating the human mind, but the specific ideas he has are in many ways at the edge of the field. So
Okay, yeah. I I don't know if we heard about it exactly here or if it was something very similar mentioned elsewhere, because what ends up being quite obvious is always when you are dealing with people and when you are dealing with notions, what pretty easily happens is you get to deal with a lot of times cognitions that lead you to ways to deal with something that were almost impossible to fully understand. And this doesn't only happen in a case to case basis, but even more if you were to get different people of the same discipline to try and realize the same task, the more you got them, even if they all got different wrong answers, the closer they will always get to the correct one. And the problem was, all of these things do not need to be fully understood to get the utility behind them. The, yeah, the negative side is also that because we, as it was pretty well expressed here, because we live in such a society where it is almost an obligation for you to get to properly decide and to get to properly call yourself a, an individual capable of not harming anyone, there are a lot of necessary steps to ensure that what is going on also allows your proper execution throughout the world. So, what this happens, or yeah, because of this happens, what it means is that a lot of regulations are imposed over almost everything so that it can be properly measured if what is going on with you as an individual is real or is fake or what. And not only that, but even what happens in these cases is sciences that have existed since so long without any proper type of measurement need to be questioned, because you never know when somebody with what bad intentions might change the outcome of their particular actions by simply using what they might have also discovered later on. So to live in a system in which it is impossible for you, as the one who took the mantle of, let's say, helper of the world, it is completely necessary for you to accept that all of these things will take you quite some time, one hand, while on the other, obviously, they are going to require you to sacrifice as much as you can of your own existence for the sake of seeing if what is being talked about and similar is really the way it is being presented to you right now. So, yeah, this is quite a complex question. But, anyways, continuing, I guess.
More central to the field is work called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is Aaron Beck, who's maybe the foremost figure in that. And that CBT was developed to be exactly the opposite in many senses of psychoanalysis. So it's similar because it's about behavior and about the interaction between a clinician and a person seeking sort of happier, healthier approach to things. But the Woody Allen version of psychotherapy, where you go for 40 years weekly to your psychiatrist on the West Side and talk through your problems, okay? That idea, people say, well, it's fine if you do that. But is that really what we mean by treating somebody? So Beck said, in things like anxiety or depression, people have dysfunctional beliefs that the world is threatening, that the world is hopeless. These are sort of logical thinking errors that you can work yourself out of to make yourself less depressed or less anxious. That you should focus not on childhood causes of what happened, but on current problems you face day to day and how to grapple with them. Develop strategies that don't make you get down and depressed or fearful and anxious. And that it should be time limited, 8 weeks or something from beginning to end period, not an endless review of your life and roots of your life. And so people have liked that because PART is easy to test in research studies. It's been shown to be pretty effective, pretty much on a par with medications in most studies, and in some cases better. Because psychoanalysis could go forever. It's hard to experimentally test that in many ways. So there was questions about whether psychotherapy works, and if you're kind of a scientist, you kind of like biological stuff like pills, not talking, right? Although talk is very powerful. And now, and early on, people say, well, maybe it's all baloney. And I would say, starting around 1980.
Before we fully change into topic, then I guess, oh man, there are a lot of things that were said almost at the last part. Yeah, ignoring what has to deal with just learning and what has to deal with also, yeah, the latest part where it is related by itself to try and see the value behind, let's say, um, trying your best to, yeah, to measure which kind of therapy is good. What happens unavoidably is that in these fields, you will always have different, yeah, innate problems also. Because what happens in all of these things is sometimes you won't really get to experience the happiness of doing what you wanted to do and then showing what you wanted to do so much. And this doesn't only mean that you are going to lose what you had been going for, but this also even more means and drives you to the conclusion that sadly, what is a necessity for you and what is useful for you might not be for others. And if you can make a good argument enough to sustain what is happening to you or what is being used on you, you might even have to deal with the worst type of event, that is the loss of what was beneficial to your own self. And not only that, but in these cases, even more when you take into consideration the types of therapy as it is psychoanalysis, where the potential of the human is almost infinite. You never know if it is bad to abandon the office when even when you feel good. So all of those things are quite interesting to analyze and are quite interesting to integrate it into an even better vision of the whole world. But I don't know. Going back to it, or to the last point that was made, the discussion of which one is better. The reality is, as I said before, these cases you will have to say, okay, each one of them is good. So let's split them at half and decide that both of them are equally good and bad, so that we can discard as many useless concepts as they have while taking with us whatever we can that we see as minimally good. So yeah, anyways, I guess continuing.
from this review, people said, no, there's a lot to it, although not everything we wish it did. So they performed a meta-analysis. You may have heard of these kinds of things where it's a quantitative method for averaging results of a large number of different studies. The idea is that statistically, if you combine many different studies, you might have a sort of an overall picture. It's not just describing them, but taking their actual statistics and combining them, looking for the effect size, something about the consistent size of in this case, a psychotherapy treatment, and then asking what happens in terms of the effect size. And you come out with a picture like this in the study, that you have an average effect size of about 0.7 that has treated people, this is getting better this way, we're on average better across many different studies. The treatment seemed to move people in the right direction, and that furthermore, about half receiving psychotherapy, about the average person was better off than 80% of the people who didn't get it. So not everybody benefits greatly, but many people benefit some. About 10% got worse. So this number suggests that only a few get worse. A weirdly different thing was that people have always wanted to develop very clear ideas about which forms of many possible forms of behavioral therapy are really powerful for which difficulty or which kind of person. It makes sense, right? That the different problem you're facing and the kind of person you are, a different kind of talk therapy, a different kind of CBT would be powerful for you. And that's been incredibly hard to demonstrate in most cases, shockingly hard to demonstrate. And part of that comes from these kinds of studies. So the best of these kinds of studies have random assignment into different kinds of treatment. For psychotherapy, you might have a wait list and you can be blinded as to getting a good or bad version. So again, here's another meta-analysis, and here's the kind of big surprise. Again, in this next meta-analysis, about 2-to-1 chance of improving versus control if you sit there and don't do anything. So that's, again, a good way to go if you're in distress. Here's kind of a surprise. Credentials don't matter. PhD, MD, no degree, okay? There might be something about the kind of person who's a more or less effective therapist. That's been hard to scientifically demonstrate. The degree you have has never correlated with the effectiveness of the treatment. Here's another big surprise. The experience of the therapist didn't matter. Beginning, middle, end of career, seen a lot of patients, not seen a lot of patients, that doesn't consistently matter. The type of therapy doesn't consistently matter. The length of therapy doesn't matter. In any way that people have been able to show scientifically. What seems to matter is talking to somebody who listens to you on a consistent basis. Yeah. That's for all these kinds of things, right? So, on the one hand, you wouldn't want to push it to an absurd extent because there are humans involved. You wouldn't want to say, let's just for fun, let's take somebody who's like a 3-year-old, right, and send them out to see what they can do, right? So I mean, there's a real person involved in real distress. So, but whenever they've done these kinds of things, and CBT is the most consistently studied because it's very organized. Psychotherapy, so many people do so differently, it's very hard to study. And CBT is time limited, so that has that approach seems more practical in some senses to people's minds. So most of the research on behavioral therapies have focused on CBT, but not exclusively. But people have never been able to show that these things matter. Maybe there is something about the bedside matter, so to speak, of the clinician or the person who talks with you, but that's never been extracted rigorously. And then the other approach, of course, is many different kinds of medications that you read about or hear about or experience.
Okay, yeah. The timestamps are quite wrong then. Amazing. But yeah, I can see why it will be. I mean, you're dealing with a problem that is not related so much to psychology, but always to the nature themselves of jobs. That is, it seems to be quite important to have a passion for what you're doing, because it seems to be quite useful to know or to realize that what is happening in these cases is the evidence shows clear signs of those who can work better, no matter which type of degree or even not degree they possess, allows them to do good enough. And not simply good enough in a sense of barely getting there, but rather good enough in a sense of fulfilling all of the necessities that are created by the patient. And certainly it is complex to take all of that into consideration because you never know how much something is being adjusted so that you can properly deal with the problems presented at you on one hand and even more in the other one. What unavoidably happens is you also don't even get to know if what you're observing is simply good for you or rather a completely crazy, let's say, theory that doesn't show to be in alignment with what is being discussed at hand. So yeah, it is quite hard to take something like this not so seriously, so scientifically speaking. So and even more because emotions are not even that well understood in terms of how is it that we feel in a certain way. We know at the very least the consequences of some of them that have been slowly observed and treated, but the rest we don't really get to understand so far. So yeah, anyways, moving on. Um,
all the time. It's turned out, let me
you know,
say, were to be extraordinarily hard to develop medications for psychiatric diseases. There's been a number that have mostly been discovered by accident. Most of these were medications developed for something else they kind of stumbled on as useful for psychiatric disorders. In the last 20 years, as people have developed drugs more systematically, it's been brutally hard to develop drugs for psychiatric disorders. There's hardly been any major new ones in the last 10 years. And many pharmaceutical companies are now abandoning their current research programs because they just don't feel they're making any traction on it. So it's been really, really hard. I mean, the mind and brain is just so complicated. And so you get all kinds of partly political debates about people who are concerned about what's right for children or giving kids too many drugs. Of course, you're never going to have a psychiatric, you're never going to have a scientific answer to that. You know, some kids probably get too many drugs, some kids probably don't get enough. We'll come back and talk about ADHD. So let's pick for a moment one disorder and ask, and we'll pick OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So it's a kind of an anxiety disorder that features obsessions, recurrent, unwanted thoughts. People are drawn to patterns of thought that they don't want to over and over again. So the obsessions are mental patterns of thought. The compulsions are physical, repetitive behaviors like endless hand washing, counting, checking, and cleaning, done with such intensity and ferocity that the person's really trapped by these. So let me show you one example of an individual patient describing her experience. So the thing with these disorders is, you know, we sometimes say somebody's
I can see why all of these lessons are quite short. Because this and I think the next two ones are also short. But the point to make here was, yeah, you can see why it will be quite complex once you take into consideration how fragile the whole structure of the brain is. And sadly, I believe so, we have lost quite a little bit the possibility of realizing anything resemble a trepanation, and it all lets you observe the world in a freer way, let's say. So that is at the very least good. But yeah, I will we will see what we can obtain from all of this so far. Let's simply continue. Let's see.
little OCD because they like to, you know, be extra careful to brush their teeth 4 times a day, or, you know, but in these cases, these individuals are really trapped. I mean, they have a hard time leaving their house, a hard time functioning socially, hard time getting jobs. So people wonder, what's the most helpful treatment? And here's an example of a study looking at how many symptoms you have of OCD. And these are individuals who get, in blue, placebo, so it's good to be low. In green, a medication that's used for the disorder. And in these colors, they're getting behavioral treatment or behavioral treatment plus medication. So at least in this context, for example, behavioral treatment is more effective by itself than the medication. It would be easy to tell you, oh, there's a rule for different disorders that it's behavioral treatment or medication, but it turns out, on average, it just vary considerably depending on the medication, depending on the particular patients you see. There's no real understanding yet of which patient should get which treatment under which circumstance. And here is some evidence suggesting that if you get medication only, this is the percent who relapse. So a concern is there's active treatment phase and how many people slide back into the difficulty medication only. About half the people relapsing about a year later. But if they get this sort of behavioral treatment, there sort of seems to be more sustained benefits. So people are thinking that might be important. And then people wonder, if we treat your mind by behavioral therapy, or if we treat your brain by drugs. Now, we're going to reject that distinction, okay? When I talk to you, if you happen to remember anything I say, I'm changing your brain, okay? Talk or experience or thoughts or imagination change your brain as much as any medical substance does, right? So, you know, it's a wrong way to think like the drugs change the brain and the talk changes the mind. To change your mind is to change your brain. So, but in any case, you could ask whether these forms of treatment, in what ways are they similar or dissimilar? So here's PET scans of patients with OCD pre and post-treatment, and you can see that there's sort of hyperactivation in the basal ganglia and the caudate that looks pretty similar across the treatments, as if both treatments were working on that overactivation of the basal ganglia. On the other hand, here's looking at CBT and drug treatment for depression, and you can see these pictures with these blue areas and these with these red areas. The brain changes in response to treatment look very different.
Yeah. I can I can get what is being mentioned so far. I can see how it works. The only quite quite problematic thing, certainly, you are dealing with not just so simple notions. You are not dealing with just so easy to grasp concepts, let's say. So it takes quite some time to fully get why sometimes diseases act in such ways and similar things. And I believe, yeah, that what we are talking about has to itself a little bit of a sense of natural displacement, let's say, but I don't believe it is negative or unavoidably bad. I believe so. So I don't know. I, I think we can continue. Yeah.
There's no simple answer about whether behavioral therapy and drug therapy change the same or different things to help people. Depends on the disorder, depends on the drug, and we just have a lot more to learn about that. But both of those things affect the brain and can be affected